Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Brothers of the Arcana. I am your co-host, Dave Ferrigno.
And I'm your other co-host, Alex Aldea.
So today's episode, we're going to be doing something different. We realized that we haven't actually introduced ourselves, or the viewers have no idea who we are, what we're about, whatever else. So for episode 11, we've decided to do a one-on-one where Alex and I interview each other and just go over questions. And hopefully that'll allow you to get to know us a little bit better, understand who we are as individuals and what we're about. Anybody can contact us, shoot us an email, shoot us a message on Instagram, wherever else, just hit us up if you ever want to ask us any questions or anything. We try to respond to everybody as best as we can, within reason, obviously. We've had some pretty fun and outrageous comments at times that we just either laugh at or don't respond to, but, they're not worth the effort. So,
yeah.
Without further ado.
With our fair share of trolls. That is true.
Yeah, this is very true. But I'm going to kick things off first by doing a cigar of the day. My cigar of the day is the Jaime Garcia Reserva Especial, the Super Gordo. Great stick, one of my favorites. Certainly always a classic to smoke if you could find them.
What gauge is that?
This one I think is a 62 or a 64.
That's a big boy size.
Yeah, they're difficult to find. You don't see them in stores very often. So if you do locate them, definitely gobble them up.
Yeah.
And what are you smoking today?
The Crowned Heads Los Calaveras, which is a great stick. I bought a box of this not too long.
A couple months ago at Cigar Club, right?
Correct. And just a solid stick. Really enjoy it, and something that is it's got a smooth flavor. I think it's got a full flavor, but it doesn't kick you over the head with nicotine. So it's just one of those things that I think will be something a lot of people would enjoy. So I'll be enjoying this a little bit later on today. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And Alex will be kung fu fighting, kicking it in the head.
That's right.
So without further discussion here, let's get started in this question and answer session. So the format, right. I'm going to ask Alex a bunch of questions, and then he's going to do the same for me. So we'll just go down the gamut. Some of them might be more personal, some might be less personal, but it's just a matter of getting to know us. So, Alex, what inspired you to start a podcast, and why did you choose the name Brothers of the Arcane or Arcana?
I would like to start off by saying I'm not responsible for Brothers of the Arcana as a name. Maybe as a concept, less so as a name. That will be a large question for Brother Ferrigno when we do this the other time. Anyway, why did I come up with the idea of a concept as an idea? So, as you know, Dave, we were hanging out in the Metropolitan Club Society, I should say, over in Fairfield, New Jersey. Props to them. Great place. And we were speaking over a fair amount of cigars like we typically do. And maybe a libation or two. There might have been some brown liquor involved there.
Perhaps.
That we love to talk about esoteric things. Both of us are Masons. Both of us are involved in a bunch of other esoteric organizations. And, we talk about everything from aliens to pyramids to tarot cards to high magic to religions of all kinds. And I mean, these are just the not to mention men's issues, which is something that's near and dear to us as being fraternity members to begin with. And then these are our natural conversation points. It's something that you and I discuss often. It's something we're passionate about, something that we've dedicated a fair amount of our lives to. And we said, oh, we love talking about this. I bet you there's probably other guys and people in general, not just guys, but folks in general that would get a kick out of this, would find it fun, interesting, engaging, and might want to see us smoke cigars, drink bourbon, and talk about it. So we said, well, why don't we try to put this on the air and see what happens? So for us, first off, it's been fun. It's been a great time. It's been an absolute cavalcade to get out there, be a part of this, and see what's next for all of us. What's possible for two guys who are involved with the fraternity life, and how that plays out in reality. So yeah, that would be my first thing. Again, not responsible for Brothers of the Arcana. That's Dave's back as a general rule, but we'll have him explain that part when it's his time.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But Alex did want to go with Brothers of the Arcane,
yes,
not the Arcana. I sold him on the Arcana.
Not really, but I just decided not to fight that fight.
It wasn't the hell to die on that day, so
nope,
all good.
So yeah,
so moving on then.
Yes, moving on. So yeah, I mean, look, Dave's one of my best friends. We enjoyed chatting tremendously about this kind of stuff. We've done a ton of research on our own. We've also had guys like Tim Hogan come a few years in a row to New Jersey. Really, I credit Dave and his lodge with that. It really had nothing to do with me. But we were able to forge a friendship with Tim outside of that, and really enjoy that opportunity, and other things like other people like Brian Bowden, and all the other friends we've been able to make along the way. It's been an absolutely incredible ride these past couple of months, and we only look forward to bigger and brighter as we sort of move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to point out that when we have our guests on, we really try to allow the guests to speak, give their story, give their expertise, and we're just along for the ride. We could certainly have our own topics and discussions and get into so many other items. And Alex and I do that regularly. If we ever recorded some of our phone conversations, it would probably be 5-6 hours long versus, 1 or 2, especially over cigars. But either way, we're just trying to deliver that to the world. So, Alex.
Yeah, I often flip through Tiger Beat, as I call him, up and do each other's hair and things of that nature.
Of course, he always braids my hair, as you could tell. Yeah. So it's important to do that. So, what do you enjoy doing when you're not recording or working on podcasts?
I'm an avid reader. In fact, I'm reading Brother Chuck Dunning's book, Rose Quarry Oratory, right now, which is came out pretty recently, and it's one that I'm enjoying tremendously. I know Chuck personally; he's a wonderful guy, and he's a very prolific author involved in contemplative masonry. He calls himself, and I just read this in his book, he calls himself a Christian esotericist. And I love that. I'm totally stealing it. I am a Christian esotericist as well. And so I enjoy reading a lot about various religions, various philosophies, really all kinds of stuff. I'm learning more about tarot, which I find pretty fascinating as a tool for self-discovery. I'm very involved with my fraternity, the Freemasons. I'm also involved with, as I said, other esoteric organizations, which I won't necessarily mention. Some of them are a bit more off the grid. But doing a little bit of dating, believe it or not, getting on the old Bumble. Ladies, hit me up. Outside of that, trying to work out and down to eating one meal a day, which is sort of this new idea that I had. I credit my cousin Chris for doing this. He started back in February and lost about 40 pounds. So I plan to lose more about the same, something like that. And Yeah, that's pretty much it. I got a lot on my plate.
Mhm.
Also started a new company for my day job in staffing and recruiting, which has been going absolutely fantastic. I'm also an entertainment lawyer. So I've got a lot on my plate. I'm a professional actor, working on that. I got a new project involved with AI, where they're taking like my face and likeness and going to turn it into a whole AI thing. And want to get back into doing more acting, which I haven't done since pretty much before COVID for the most part. So yeah, that's what I got on my plate.
God help us all with the likeness of you. But
Yes, that's right. I'll be long dead, some sort of a bony skeleton somewhere or something, and my face will stick out. Max,
especially especially with that one meal a day, you'll just be a bony skeleton. So
yeah, well, hopefully not anytime soon, but
yeah,
who knows? What
knock
can we
on
do?
wood.
Yeah.
So next question, what's a book, movie, or piece of music that has a profound or has had a profound impact on you?
Okay. I would say movie wise, Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino, Chris O'Donnell is probably my favorite movie. That's an amazing film from lots of points of view. As a sort of coming of age story about a young guy. It has a redemption story in terms of Al Pacino's character. It has incredible scenes, phenomenal. I just think of it, in terms of the spectator brain and then the actor brain, right? So, spectator brain, as an audience member, it's so much fun and it's quite a ride that they take you on. And from the actor's brain, I can only think how wonderful it would be to do that sort of quasi courtroom scene that happens at the end. That Al Pacino has defending young Chris O'Donnell against disciplinary hearings at his school, the bad school. And yeah, it's interesting. It's irreverent, and it sort of flies in the face of traditional sort of structures of this is what's right, this is what's wrong. I guess it speaks to my rebellious nature. The other big movie other two big movies that I really like that are coming to mind, Office Space. I think Office Space changed my whole mindset for what's possible in terms of people working in corporate America and then somebody having, in essence, an epiphany about how to live a life on your own terms, how to approach it from getting out of that cookie cutter model of really something my parents tried to instill in me for a long time and it never really took, of like the get good grades, because if you get good grades, you'll get a great job. And if you get a great job, then you'll have a great life and then you can retire rich. And that's why we came to this country, in order for you to make good, so to speak, because we couldn't have that as an option in Romania. I was born in Romania, stayed there till I was about 7, and then made my way. We made our way over here. I spoke about that a little bit in the Freddie podcast. That was a tough time. My sister and I were without our parents for about 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, from 81 to 84. And then we came here. And, that was part of my idea into esotericism and trying to understand more about life outside of this sort of being molded by these movies. Because it's you have your foot in two different worlds. One in Romania, growing up under the paradigm of communism and all the promises and frankly BS of that system, and then coming into what was thought of as the shining pinnacle of liberty in the world, the United States of America. Whether that's still the case is a subject of debate. And something I won't get into now, but it's not really what the podcast is about, but it's something Dave and I discuss offline. To a great extent, we were talking about genetically modified chickens this morning. So,
Yes, we were.
And all the stuff that is in your food that probably shouldn't be in your food. But outside of that, you asked me about movies, and the third one I would say would be Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, which is again an incredible movie from so many different points of view. And then a fourth one would be Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky. All four of those movies, check them out. I think you'll find that they're all paradigm breakers in various ways. If you let them sort of affect you, they will take you to a different place, a different mindset. Book-wise, I'm paying attention to a couple things these days outside of Rose Career Oratory. I would say I'm a big Richard Bach fan. Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions, The Misadventures of a Reluctant Messiah. Those are both great books about human potential. I love Stranger in a Strange Land, Robert Heinlein. And I love Awake by Angelo DeLullo. We'll try to put links to all of these various things in the podcast as in the descriptions.
Yeah, I'm half tempted based on at the time of this filming, and this probably won't age too well, but there's Hurricane Milton currently in the Gulf of Mexico barreling towards Florida. And I saw a meme earlier in attack.
That was a horrible tragedy. It's not for laughing, but
yes, we're
of Milton from Office Space going.
I'm going to share that in this episode so that nobody sits there and says, you guys are
like how heartless the brothers are for laughing at a Category 5 hurricane about that.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
God forbid. We don't want to see any other destruction or anything.
Please, no destruction. Lord God, please help the people of Florida in this trying time, as well as the people in North Carolina. There's been way too much
Georgia and others.
And Georgia as well. Yes, of course. But yeah, those are the books that I am. I think have affected me. I'm making my way slowly but surely through the Bible, and I've gotten to 48 years old and still haven't read the full part of it. Although I feel like I've probably overall read a lot of it. Certainly metabolized it in many forms, whether it's been movies or film or shows. I'm part of this other fraternity called SMOTJ, Sovereign Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem. It's one of the modern Templar organizations. The brother who plays Jesus in The Chosen is actually part of that organization as well, which is kind of cool. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's a household name now. God bless him. That I couldn't be happier for him and his success. I can only wish the same for me. So we'll see what God has in store for us as we move this podcast forward and also do our own thing. I'm doing my own thing partly. I have some thoughts starting from this podcast and moving on. And I'll do a shameless plug. I started a Substack called Trying Men's Souls. And then I just have some philosophy ideas, poetry, other stuff like that that's going to be put up there for fun and hopefully for profit. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
So ladies, you could try Alex's soul. He's single, so
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Just don't steal it away from him. That's all.
Oh boy. All right.
On to the next question here.
On to the next one before we get in big trouble. Go ahead.
Right. What do you hope people take away from not only your podcast and our podcast in general, but also knowing you as a person?
Geez. First of all, I would hope, and I think this speaks for both of us, just the genuineness that we're approaching this with. We're just us being us. This is how we talk. to each other, how we talk in general terms. One of the things that, to a great extent, the fraternity, but just, getting to know guys and getting to know Dave in particular, it's just been such a great opportunity to be myself, to bring that the knowledge that I've accumulated over time to this, to really say, hey, by the way, here we are. We're just trying to be people in the world. What does that look like? How do we make amends for the nonsense that we've been through? How do we make a place for ourselves in this moment, in this time? How do we make our way forward in the world? How do we understand what our place is and what our particular talents are for I guess it's a harder question to answer than I otherwise would have thought. Because it really goes to, who are we as people? What do we have to contribute? Why were we put here? Do we have a purpose? Do we not have a purpose? If we have a purpose, what is that purpose? As we look at history, how do we make any sort of sense of it, especially as it starts to change around us? The discovery of Göbekli Tepe, as much as anything else, just blows your mind in terms of a paradigm of, like, what is this? What are we even told? Is this true? Is it not? And this is not with an avenue to, like, oh, we've been lied to. I don't personally believe that we have. I just feel like we're just discovering new things. So as these paradigms break, and it seems like that's happening everywhere. It's happening in politics. It's happening in history. It's happening in society, how we feel. That's why Dave and I are thinking about, well, we should talk to some extent to men because of our fraternity background. Obviously, we're talking to everybody, but men these days it's a quandary. Like, what does it mean to be a man today? How do we move forward with a sense of integrity, with a sense of rootedness, right? Deep rootedness in both the past and into the future. How do you stand in your ability to be a man? What does that look like? How does that show up? And how do you educate other men going forward? Not this nonsense of, and I hate to say it, but I'm really not a fan as such of the big overblown red pill, quote unquote, macho masculinity kind of stuff. Obviously, there's a part of masculinity that could go there, but I don't know that it really truly is where it lives. I think a man is a man when he truly is a man, doesn't need to advertise that fact and thump his chest and say, here I am, I'm taking over the room and I'm going to suck up all the air in the room with all this rhetoric. I think a lot of it is being quiet, being in your space, and what that looks like. Part of it is also coming from a fraternity background. We are very familiar with the idea of rituals. And then partly it's all about how you can use those types of rituals as a grounding mechanism and as a mechanism for self-discovery. How do you take the idea of being a man and inculcate it into you? How do you transition into a deeper understanding of that, for yourself, for the people around you, and for society in general? I am one that takes a great solace out of the words of David Hawkins, who he passed away in 2012. They used to call him Doc, or Doc Hawkins. He's a fascinating individual. And one of the things he said is, if you want to change the world, go home and work on yourself. So really what that looked like was that, how do you do that self-improvement? And I do martial arts. One of the things, I was just in the park with a friend of mine, and he was showing me how if you want to move somebody, let's say you're doing push hands in Tai Chi, and push hands is merely, and you can look it up. It's pretty cool. It's an activity that works as a it's almost like a sport, but it just shows it's able to show you good body mechanics in Tai Chi. And if you have good body mechanics, you'll be able to move the other person off of their balance without. It's not wrestling. You're not shoving each other. It's merely you're using the body mechanisms to move the other person off of their center. And if you can do that, then you're successful. And really, it's an activity that does that. Some people get pretty animated with it, turn it almost into a wrestling match. It's not really what it's for, in my opinion. But it helps you to come up with different body qualities. So when you do Tai Chi, a lot of it is you could do very, very small form Tai Chi. You could do very flowy Tai Chi, like seaweedy kind of thing. You could do very large, overblown Tai Chi. And all of that leads to moving the Chi in your body. So Chi is energy. It's what you have in your body. Everybody has it. You can't not have it as a human being. And Tai Chi allows you to move that energy around for healing purposes, for fighting purposes. You could fight with Tai Chi. Most people don't know that. So Tai Chi is called Grand Ultimate Fist. It is, I would say one of the martial arts, one of the best martial arts that humanity's been able to come across and use. It's just it's applicable in so many ways. But my point being that when you do it and you want to actually move the other person, there's a modality for doing that. And the way is you integrate yourself fully. So you show up in the world with total integrity in your body and in your spirit, where you really want nothing from the other person. You want nothing from the universe. You get put into that place of ultimate possibility, right? Where you can't put a foot down wrong, as my friend Joseph Riggio says. And once you're there, that resource state, that flow state, as Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi says in Flow, then from there, all things are possible. And moving from there, you're indomitable. So that's kind of my personal philosophy is work on yourself, get yourself into that place, into that area. And by the way, I fail all the time at this. I'm not, I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox and tell you how amazing I've been able to get it. And guys, I've had glimpses of enlightenment, if you want to think of it that way, where I'm just totally integrated. But then it's the capacity to hold that, right? So how do you move through life like that? It's all great to be in a monastery and hang out and be able to get to the point where you are totally integrated, sitting on a cushion. All right, that's great. Now go and do it in the Limelight Disco. I aged myself there a little bit, because that's not around anymore. But go to a rave, go to a country music hoedown, go to some kind of go to the Giants game, which Giants just won.
Shockingly against the Seahawks.
Shocking. Yes, exactly. Or go to any sort of event where other humans interact in real time with these people while staying in that state. Tougher proposition. And the question is, how do you get there? How do you do that? We're pointing the way towards that. I think, as Angelo DeLillo says, many times it's not really about the flow state itself. It's maybe pointing the way to where that might be. So we're trying that. We're doing our best to do that in this space, in this podcast, and sort of moving forward from there.
Great. So, what personal challenges have you faced that led you to explore the deeper esoteric aspects of spirituality?
What personal challenges? That's such a deep question, and a tough one. I think what I alluded to before, not being with my parents for 3 years, had a massive impact on my life. I was bullied for many, many years, coming up through school. Um, Jordan Peterson says, make sure that your kids are pleasant, or are taught, that you teach your kids how to be pleasant and work with others. Otherwise, they're going to have a tough life. Boy, truer words were never spoken. I had the curse and blessing of being somewhat intelligent. And when you have that, and you don't have the maturity to govern it, and you need, and this applies to a lot of adults that I know that still do this, when you have to be the smartest guy in the room, when you have to continually show that, boy, you just open yourself up to so much abuse. And a lot of people do it because they're trying to compensate, and a lot of people are doing it for a lot of reasons. I know that was probably one of my issues. I didn't grow up with a good sense of, and maybe not too many people do, of who I am, who I was. I think I was torn, like I said, between two worlds, speaking two languages, trying to understand, coming here at 7, not fitting in, not knowing what the rules were here, in a lot of respects, sort of growing up of two different minds, parents being immigrants, working their butts off, not having the time or maybe capacity to raise us, with. No, I'm not gonna go there. Not gonna criticize my parents. They're lovely people, and they did their best. So, but love them today. We have a relationship, sometimes rocky, like a lot of people. But getting into the fraternity scene, became a Mason back in 2011. I've had an entire understanding of esoterics, ritual, how that plays out in people's lives, how that, having run a lodge myself, as well as Brother Dave has, both being what's called worshipful masters, in other words, masters of a lodge, presidents of this organization, on a micro level. All that's opened up a lot of viewpoints for me in terms of my life, how my life has developed. I've had the opportunity and the honor of leading men. That opportunity has shown up in many ways. Man, I've gotten a lot of slapdowns over the years, and probably continue to get them. I still fight against a fair amount of healthy ego in myself and my abilities, and what I can do and offer. And I think a lot of this journey is in tempering that down and just showing up with integrity without feeling the need to trumpet that in any way. Just saying, hey, this is it. This is what it is. I don't apologize for myself, but also I don't need to suck up all the air in the room at the same time. So it's a tough it's a tough line to walk. Yeah, it's a
Eat
tough
some
one.
humble pie.
Well, yeah, and boy, have I eaten a fair share, and probably will continue to have to learn that lesson. As I sort of, thanks, Dave. Appreciate your career with me with that one.
Yeah. Humility, buddy. Humility.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Religion's also been a big thing for me. Yeah. Grew up Christian, Romanian Orthodox to be precise. and moving into that martial arts. A whole bunch of other modalities like NLP, neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis. My friend Joseph Riggio's program, the Mythogenic Self, Mythoself, which is a wonderful, wonderful program. I definitely encourage you to check that out. There's just so many. I'm just chucking out a whole bunch of stuff out here that has affected me in my life. And, it helps me to come to grips with the fact that there's one mountain and we're all trying to climb it, whether it's through religion, martial arts, other modalities, esoterics, magic, meditation, whatever it is that is your personal path. Even atheism in its strange form God will work through you in your atheism. Surprise. and it will you're gonna get lessons regardless, whether you think there's a God or whether you think there isn't. That's the humbling thing. Oh, psychedelics. Let's not forget that. I mean, that is a whole other world in itself that I've experimented with to quite an extent, whether it's ayahuasca, mushrooms, other stuff, just craziness, but wonderful modality to getting through life.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome.
How has your understanding of truth evolved over time? And what truths do you find yourself continuously coming back to?
Man.
I think you kind of touched upon it earlier too.
Did I? What did I say?
Well, when you touched upon the fact of, kind of history, what society, what we're being told or whatever else, you were saying we might not necessarily be lied to. Maybe there's, like when you talked about Göbekli Tepe and some of the other discoveries in the world.
So, I would say that although those are... So people say that there's people are absolutists and relativists, right? Both are true. There's an inherent paradox in the way that life unfolds. There is a absolutism and there's a relativism. Absolutism is God, the Godhead, the thing that created everything, without which there is nothing, and the idea and the stillness of which passeth all understanding. It just occurs everywhere. You would have to do a lot, and people do a lot, myself included, of mental gymnastics in order to get away from that simple and complete understanding. We create, and whatever matrix reality we're living in right now, whatever that truly looks like, is a well, people have said it's a construct. It's something that allows us to have an experience on this plane of existence, whatever this is, that we're part of here in the world. And when that happens, there are filters through which we view life. Those filters create a reality, a sub-reality, if you want to call it. And that sub-reality has flavors. There's your relativity. So yes, there are truths that apply within those constructs. There are truths that apply And when I say truths, I mean things that act the way you would expect them to in certain circumstances, right? So the truth is not necessarily I believe Dave to always tell the truth. I believe Dave to react in the way that Dave reacts under a certain set of circumstances, right? So, and I think that that's, you can base yourself off of these realities. That's why it's always more interesting to watch people's actions than it is to watch what they say, because their actions will give away what they truly believe and how they're going to react in that moment. That's the truth, in essence. Whether they happen to be lying at the time or not, or obscuring something, or yeah. So it's tough to, within moving forward on this life, and we're constantly moving forward, right? From present to present to present. So how does one look at the universe? The universe is, and how does one behave and fluctuate in the universe as we, yes, look for it, Dave. There it is. Oh, you missed it. There it goes. The quantum mechanics, to a great extent, looks at things like superposition. It looks at things like the way that electrons behave, photons behave. Photons, which are particles of light, can sometimes behave as particles and can sometimes behave as waves. There's a whole Masonic presentation that I do on this. I won't burden our topic today with it, but
quantum entanglement, baby.
Quantum entanglement. The whole point is that there's a field of potentiality. That's that objective thing. It can be anything at any moment in time. Everything that's anything exists in this field of potentiality. Once attention is brought to it, and once, even more to the point, a choice is made, right? So we talk about, what does decide mean? To decide something. The definition of decide is the death of choice. Side, C-I-D-E, is death, right? Like xenocide or patricide or regicide, if you enjoy killing kings, whatever it is that that looks like, or deicide, if you like the heavy metal band, which is the death of God. Decide is the death of choice. It's you're shutting off one option and picking one. Once you've picked one and you put your attention on it, that option now becomes activated in this matrix environment, whatever, as we said, whatever you want to call this world. And once you do that and you put the force of your attention behind it, then certain principles of the universe start to act upon it, like the law of vibration, the law of attraction, the law of expectation, and all these various laws that exist. So now where people get in trouble is that, or not so much get in trouble, but work under a misunderstanding of these laws, is that they are they exist. There's a certain amount of entropy that exists in the system, right? So this when you're in carnal reality where your body exists and walks through space, there's a certain amount of friction that happens. That friction doesn't allow the process to unfold immediately. There's a certain amount of time that it's going to take to get from point A to point B. That time is something that occurs throughout this system. It's just something that allows us to. I don't know if you caught all that, Dave, because you sort of be flowing in and out of the system. You're like a photon of light, Dave, where you just keep disappearing and
Yeah.
reappearing.
I did kind of lose you there for a minute, but it's okay.
Just a little distracting.
Keep going.
Somehow we're able to. Well, I'm sure you'll be recorded on your end, and everything will go great. But my point is that the humanity has so much possibility, so many ways in which it can develop, and I've been fascinated by that as a general rule. And I want to know how this is able to happen all while we're in this carnal existence. I'm sure the veil will be lifted at some point when we pass from this earthly existence and on to whatever the next step is. And that's always been an interesting part, because even if you take the laws of thermodynamics into play and you don't talk about religion at all, so energy can neither be created nor destroyed, right? It just gets transformed. So our earthly existence here is a series and a period and a point of transformation. It continues. We transform from form to form. Things happen, and then we aren't what we used to be, right? Even every 10 years, our bodies, I think it's 7 to 10 years, our bodies fully and completely change all of our cell structure. We all have brand new cells. And yet some of those cells maintain the memory of the past, trauma, other things. Scar tissue, for instance, recreates as scar tissue, doesn't recreate as new tissue. So, there's a certain amount of interesting continuity that occurs. Another thing I've been fascinated by is how we store trauma in the body and how that could be expelled or metabolized. So trauma can get created under almost like a freezing of that moment in time. So if the universe is a series of pictures that just rapidly move forward through time like a movie, and any movie can be broken up into a picture, right? So you could take a snapshot of a video and you'll have that snapshot, that moment in time. And then it will, if you line up enough of those snapshots, you'll have a cartoon, right? So that's how they used to make cartoons. You'd have the celluloid cell, and then you have enough of those in a line, and it moves seamlessly through time like a cartoon. That's my opinion of how this universe works, how we move through time. So at any moment in time, you can pick a new path. There is no particular cause and effect. It's just what gets discovered, what gets delivered through that field of potentiality. You pump out whatever your attention puts its attention on. You put your intent on, I should say, and you create more of that. Whatever you have internally in your body also gets created out there in the universe. So what does that mean? There's an old saying that as above, so below, as inside, so outside. That's it was an idea created, or not created, but coined by Hermes Trismegistus. And what that means is what you exhibit on the inside, your issues, your way of being, is reflected on the outside. And that's why a lot of people that don't have their lives together, when they're faced through life or they're moving through life, even if they happen to be very successful. So, monetary income is not indicative of having your life together necessarily, or of having a happy life, a life of bliss, a life of joy, a life where you're doing things that connect you to God. So when you have that disconcertedness inside yourself, when you have that cognitive dissonance, so to speak, that climbs out of you and exhibits itself out in the world. So when you want to make a change, that change will take a certain quantum of time. How much? It all depends. You have to keep the faith that what you're doing is something that is keep that vibration, keep that ability to allow the vibratory pattern to make its way towards you, right? To make its way to you. Doing that will allow the universe to conspire with you instead of just falling off that vibration where you go to a lower vibration, and then the universe will give you that, because at that point, that's what you have your attention on. So that's a long answer to a very complicated question that Dave gave me. Yeah,
sounds about right.
Yeah. So I hope that my long diatribe was of help to anyone, to someone.
I'm sure it was incredible.
Is anyone out there? Hello? Who's listening to this? Yes.
Exactly.
So,
alrighty then. All right. Well, let's continue, and maybe I'll give you a less long-winded question. Maybe we could get them to shut up, folks. You never know.
Doubt so. Go ahead.
What legacy do you hope Brothers of the Arcana podcast leaves behind? Not just as a podcast, but as a beacon of truth for listeners on their own journeys.
Oh, a beacon of truth, is it? That's quite a thing. Legacies and beacons of truth. Well, this is definitely a Dave idea.
Follow that beacon.
Yeah, how's that beacon working out for you? Well, I'll say this. Integrity functions on a lot of levels. One of those possibilities is doing a podcast. So what happens during a podcast? Two people talk to each other. Two people talk to other people. One guy talks to himself. Whatever that looks like, and a medium is created for dialogue or even monologue, because even a guy talking to himself is talking to an audience, whoever wants to tune in. In that dialogue, a journey is created. In that journey, there is self-discovery. During that self-discovery, there is transformation. So if there's one thing that I hope more than anything else gets created out of this show, it's that the audience, whoever they may be, and God bless you all, and thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this as we figure this out and we all figure ourselves out. We'll be affected by the words that we say, by the things that we do, by the fun that we have, by the discoveries that we make, and by the transformation of our journey. Hopefully we can impart some of that or a lot of it to you guys, to paying attention to us, to, having a good time. Listen, as much as anything else, we're trying to have a good time with this, guys. This is fun. This is a good time. This is, are we trying to get paid for this? Yeah. Is that the main point? The main point is to do what we love. We'd be doing this for free, and we are doing this for free currently. All this comes out of our pockets, and it's something that we just, man. We could just go back to Dave and I talking over cigars and bourbon and talking about life and its possibilities, but we'd much rather have you guys involved in this, taking part, having a great time along with us, and just loving that we love it, and all taking great joy in the mysteries of life. That's, if there's a legacy to this, I hope it's that.
Fair enough. This is a fun one. So, who has been the most influential person in your life, and how have they shaped who you are today?
No one. I credit myself with everything. I was born sua sponte, and you just add water, and here I am. No.
There's his ego, folks.
Yeah, seriously. Who do I credit? Well, God, there's so many people. so many people, whether they've known it or not. People who've directly affected me through martial arts, religion, people who've taken their time and effort to teach me so many things in life. I want to thank all of my enemies, whoever they may be, for teaching me as much as my friends. Sounds like weird if you say you have enemies. It's like you know, you're in the Middle Ages. But no.
Lock and load.
Like people that I don't agree with, people whose view of life is not the same as mine, and oftentimes we clash. But guess what? In that friction comes new understanding. In that friction comes, where I forget if it was Shakespeare who said that, at the end of life, the hero and the villain both take the stage and do their final bows. We're all working towards the same ends in many respects. It's just how we do it and how we view that life and that journey that oftentimes our egos do clash. And I'm sorry for that. Publicly, I'm sorry for any of my actions, whether through a word, a deed or thought, have adversely impacted anyone. Because whether I was conscious of it or unconscious of it, sometimes as you move through life, you create collateral damage, and but maybe even that damage itself is there for a reason. Maybe that's a lesson too, as much as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I will apologize for my part of that, or for all of it, really. Yeah. So there you go.
Fair enough. So if you could go back in history and meet one person, who would it be and why? Alive or dead, obviously.
Well, I mean, it would have to be Jesus, I would have to say. I mean, his philosophies and his way of life, as much as I consistently fail at it, have been a huge impetus and a huge understanding of my life. The weirdest thing is what happened to me when I was about 3 years old. Before I left Romania, there was a moment in time when I saw a picture, an icon, in my mother's house, and the people who were there, who were around, would just be walking out of the room, all the adults, and all of a sudden, it was this moment in time, which was absolutely, it was like the weirdest thing. In this moment in time, all time stopped. As this door closed, it was as if time just ceased. And there was this icon that was on the wall. It's my first memory ever. And I felt like I connected with it. And from that moment, it was like I almost levitated off the ground. I felt like I was levitating, like I was rising off the ground. And then and then I was put back down. And as my feet touched the floor, the door opened to the room and people started walking back again. It was just this crazy moment in time. It's my earliest memory ever. I don't know what it means, what it was all about, but it's just very, very interesting that is the first thing that I can really recall. I recalled some previous things under when I was doing psychedelics, but that was like my own birth and things like that. But yeah, some interesting things. I didn't answer your question, but I guess I guess I did. Jesus. So the point is that original memory connected me so much to the idea of Christianity. And like I said, I'm style myself, and thank you, Chuck Dunning, for this, a Christian esotericist, because it makes a lot of sense. It's something that would just allows us to really understand that Christianity is a modality for meeting God, for being one with God. But there's many, many flavors of Christianity in that sense. There wouldn't be 50,000 of denominations of Protestantism alone. let alone Orthodoxy and various denominations of that. Not denominations, but branches, so to speak, pre-Nicene, post-Nicene, Catholic, Orthodox, everything from that to, very, very modern religious stuff that, frankly, I have my own set of problems with. Whatever that looks like. That's not for me. It doesn't have to be for me. It's for others and their paths. So yeah, that's how I would answer that question for the most part. I would say Jesus. Yeah. Maybe Alexander too. I got to imagine that somebody who conquers the world at 25 years old has got to be a pretty interesting dude to get to meet as well. Not to mention I'm named for him. So there you go. That's kind of cool. Maybe Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler would be a cool one to meet. He was apparently an ancestor of mine. That's what they tell me. So, maybe that explains a thing or two. Anyhow, just joking. Yeah. So I would say that that's what we got going on. Dave, any thoughts on your end?
All right. Well, I got
Great.
the next question for you.
So, what I would say among and above all else is that the ability to be a human, to move forward in time, and to be the type of person that is best epitomized by whatever this looks like, whatever this matrix is that we're all living in, is the most that you can do as a person. Be the most that you can be as a person without joining the IB necessarily. And that's just a joke from the old "be all you can be" thing. Here's my humor, folks. Enjoy it. So yeah, dude, that's the answer to that one.
So, what's something about your personality or life story that might surprise our listeners?
Oh, might surprise our listeners. Yeah, that's a might surprise.
If you don't know, we can skip it.
Well, I struggle with depression and anxiety. A fair amount of PTSD based on past experiences and such. And part of that is really what brought me to this work, as I said before. So when that gets exhibited, it can be tough. It can be tough to function. It can be tough to motivate, to go out there and live life and become a part of things in a full way. And so part of that is about, learning to heal that, learning to move beyond it, and still get out there and just living a life of joy and everything that entails. So, if you see me and I'm not necessarily in the best frame of mind, sorry in advance. Some of this stuff is chemical in the brain. So some of it is, as they say, you can't beat the biology. I guess you could medicate the biology, but I have my own fears or prejudices against modern medicine in certain respects. I will say that I have tried the idea of several modern pharmaceuticals for medicating depression and anxiety, and they, at least the ones that I tried, had many drawbacks and as many side effects as they did benefits. So really hard to use that as a good pathway, at least for me. I wouldn't want to speak to anyone else. I'm not a doctor, or anyone else that feels the need to use those things should obviously contact your doctor or your psychiatrist, medical professional, and think about, what's best for you and your path. But life's a tough one, man. You don't make it out alive. So it's or you just pass on to what the next thing is.
Yeah.
But life is not without its tribulations. So, and if you're saddled with things like anxiety or depression, it just makes for a different flavor on everything as you move through it. So I'll say that.
So if your spirit guide or guides had a theme song, what would it be?
Geez. It's funny because it's kind of like, I don't know, Greatest American Hero.
All right.
That, or I get the there's so many good songs. That one, You're the Best Around by the one from the Karate Kid. That's a great one. But that's all ego stuff. It would be his theme song is by it would probably be the sound of no sound. It would be the silence, because at some point nothing more, when you're in your space, when you're fully actualized, if you want to use all that psychobabble jargon, if you're fully actualized, you don't want anything. You don't need anything per se, other than just to keep this body going. And when you do that, then, and even if the body falls over and passes away, you don't necessarily mind or care, because you're not tied to it anymore. You're not tied to the fears of the world. And I would imagine that my higher self, right? So, since, but you use a different word, spiritual,
Say your spirit guide or
spirit guide. I mean, I'm not actually quite sure what that is. Everybody's got their own interpretation of what a spirit guide is. Is it your higher self? Is it some shamanic entity that comes through a plant like Noya Rao or Bobinsana, Kiriksanango, ayahuasca, mushrooms? I mean, there's so many teaching herbs out there that could function as guides. Whether your spirit guide's an animal, a totem, whether your spirit guide is Jesus or some saint, or the Mother Mary, or I don't know. I guess I've had many spirit guides. I've had certain mentors. Yeah. But what music? I think it's silence. There's nothing better, except no substitutes. And then, of course, there's a whole panoply of beautiful music. Some of the ones that I love are, Barber of Seville by Rossini. That's probably my favorite opera. Mostly because it's a comedy and it ends well. I love tragedy. Tragedy is gorgeous and beautiful and amazing. But it's tragedy. It doesn't end well. And I have to think, as an eternal optimist, that life ultimately is a good thing, and that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Yeah.
Alex, if you could only have one cigar for the rest of your life, say the world is ending today, and you have to pick up a collection of those cigars and have a lifetime supply of it, what would it be?
So since you asked me a metaphysical question, I'm going to give you a metaphysical answer. When I was interning at the UN in 1999, there was a guy that worked at the Staff and Management Coordination Committee, the SMCC, which was sort of a union body there. It would coordinate the union and the workers of the UN system, and they were there over the summer for a big conference. And one of the guys was in the management. He saw me smoking, and I was smoking crappy cigars back then, like Swisher Sweets and a couple of the smaller stuff. They had these sort of like these smaller Viennese cigars. They were like cigarillos, basically. And we'd be out there, you know, these young guys sort of thinking we're very posh and very smart and urbane, and we'd be in the cafe over there smoking cigars. Well, when I think that was available, I'm not even sure if that's still doable anymore. But anyway, we were smoking those things, and then he comes up to me, and he asked me for one of my crappy cigars because he just wanted a cigar. And I said, sure. So I gave him whatever I had then, a cigarillo, and he said, I'll get you back. And I didn't think much of it. The next day he came, and he gave me this like diplomatic pouch thing. It was like a small one. And inside it was a Romeo and Julieta Churchill Cuban that he had with him. And I smoked that. It was my first Cuban that I ever tried. And it was the most delicious, amazing, incredible cigar I'd ever had in my life. It totally blew out my paradigm for what a cigar could be, and frankly should be, after having smoked it. So, you know, if I could have those, yeah, that's the best cigar I've ever had. And look, I've had more complex cigars since. I've had fascinating, delicious cigars. I just had an EP Carrillo, the Pledge cigar, I think it was, which was just an absolute gangbuster of a cigar. But that one was the paradigm breaker for me. That redefined my love and interest in cigars. So yeah, that's what I would do. That would be the cigar I would do.
Yeah, and those old Giulietta Romeo cigars back in the day, or I know the Cubans especially, they just had a nice texture and creaminess to them that was just completely fantastic. And I remember they used to sell those in the individual tubes inside the box as well. With they call those the tubos. It's like you
The
used to be able to
tubos,
get
right?
them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
You can get those, and of course not in the U.S. because nobody does that here.
Well, that's a different thing. So Dave says Juliette Romeo instead of Romeo and Julieta.
Well, it's Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, of course.
He likes
Italian.
eating stuff from East Hanover, which is very, very good. And that's delicious. There's a pizzeria there that's really, really awesome that he gets a lot of his food from. So, but yes, speaking of food, was there something you wanted to ask me food related?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is your favorite meal or cuisine?
Man, that's a tough one. There's a couple that spring to mind. I'm a gourmand by nature. That's why I'm trying to lose weight. But I mean, I grew up on Romanian food. That's what home is to me. That's why I love it. Amazing stuff. My mom will make this recipe with quinces. Quinces are a fruit, folks. Check it out. You're gonna love it. She does a chicken and quince dish that's absolutely phenomenal. Outside of the Romanian thing, sushi. I could eat sushi every day of my life. I could eat barbecue every day of my life. I mean, ribs, brisket done right. Are you guys kidding me? Forget about it. You know what I'm saying? I could eat linguine alla vongole every day of my life, which is the clams and the white sauce with the linguine. When that's done right, there's no sand in it, none of that nonsense. I could eat oysters. Oh, God, amazing. Yeah, I remember I was in Cancun and I was having, they call it chocolate clams. They basically have these large clams and they have this chocolate exterior to them. And you put whatever you're going to put on it. I usually put lemon. And I'd forgotten that the thing was alive and it just does this, like as it's sort of like you put the lemon on it. And my mother looked at me like I was an absolute monster. She looked at me like this horrified look of like, what, who are you? Who did I birth that is sitting here next to me eating these live clams? And it's, not the first time she's looked at me that way, I'm sure. Hopefully she didn't
Probably won't be the last.
Yeah, it probably won't be the last. Hopefully she didn't do it right at birth, as I was, being extruded. So, the idea being that, what other kinds of, Korean food. Oh my God, I love Korean food. Bibimbap. It's so good. It's so delicious. Kimchi. God, I love fermented food. Pickles, all kinds of pickles. Yeah. Just so good. So good stuff. I love Puerto Rican food. Like pegao. Pegao.
Mofongo too, or no?
Not mofongo. I like the rice and the beans, where the rice is where they use the Dominicans say con, and the Puerto Ricans say pegao, where the rice is crispy. It's at the bottom of that dish. The stuff Nestor's wife makes.
Yep.
Just absolutely incredible. I love pernil, which is amazing too. It's like suckling pig. Just absolutely phenomenal. Roast pork. I love beef. I could have beef and ruminant stuff every day, every single day. I could eat that. A lot of people will eat beef or do some sort of a carnivore diet, which is pretty awesome too, in terms of how to go about losing weight and keeping that off. So yeah, those are all of the one thing that I will eat.
Just the one.
Just the one, guys. Just the one.
And who doesn't love butter and steak, other than a vegetarian, of course? But
and we could eat those.
We absolutely can eat tons of that. So
yes,
just give me the cow. I'm good to go.
Give me the cow. I like it rare, and I can ride the rest home.
Yeah, I like my meat mooing. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think I'm going to end it there. There's definitely other questions that I had, but I think it's a good stopping point. And, I'll say we'll continue in part 2 next week. And obviously,
yes, where I interviewed you.
Yes, that should be a whole lot of fun and enlightening for everyone. And we'll continue on that.
I hope absolutely. I hope this was helpful and fun for folks. Get to know me a little bit. And next week we'll get to know Dave. Just so to help you understand why we care, why we're here, why we're doing this, and why we hope that you'll love it and stick with us and just be on this journey with us, guys. Until next time, this has been Brothers of the Arcana. I am Alex Aldea.
And I am Dave Ferrigno. Thank you for joining us today. God bless.
God bless.